Today, we wrap up our conversation with Dr. Elisa Song as we explore the wonderful world of must-have natural remedies. In this deep dive, Dr. Song will share her expert knowledge on most effective natural remedies you should always keep on hand. Join us as we uncover the power of nature to support your health and well-being. In our Toxin Tamer segment, we'll be discussing the importance of ditching benzoyl peroxide and exploring safer alternatives. Plus, we're debunking a common medical myth about fever suppression that might change the way you think about managing fevers. Don't miss this enlightening episode filled with valuable information to enhance your health journey.
The Discovery Doc Podcast, where your journey to empowered, non-toxic living begins. Join me, Dr. CeCe, a doctor of nursing practice, self-proclaimed toxin tamer, and mama of four, alongside
me, Annah Kate, your medical mystery overachiever. Together, we'll uncover the latest in functional medicine, debunk health myths, tame toxins, and provide practical tips for thriving in a modern world.
Get ready to take control of your health with expert insights, raw stories, and actionable wellness strategies designed to help you and your family lead vibrant, toxin-free lives. Let's discover together.
Welcome to the Discovery Doc Podcast. This week, we continue our conversation with Dr. Elisa Song. Elisa.
Yep, you messed that one up.
Sorry. Dr. Elisa Song.
She messed it up. We were waiting for it in Pimple or words,
Well,
guys.
you got it the right first couple times. Awesome.
Okay.
I know.
All right, we're going to do that again.
Okay, go for it. So we just have, are you okay on timing? We have two more little short sections.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful.
Welcome to the Discovery Doc Podcast. This week, we continue our conversation with Dr. Elisa Song. What you don't know about antibiotics could slow recovery after use.
Yes. So discoverers, be sure to listen back on our previous week's episodes with Dr. Song. There's so much knowledge and just empowering just information in those episodes that I would love for you to go back and listen if you've missed it. If not, let's continue our discussion. And we are going to talk about all things antibiotics. We started on episode 1 or the first week of the episodes with her, but we are going to dive a little bit deeper into that now. So Dr. Song, what should every parent and practitioner know? I'm going to open the floor and just let you go.
Well, antibiotics are such an important topic of discussion, especially for children. And frankly, for all of us. We know, and for me as a conventional pediatrician, I've seen the life-saving benefits of antibiotics, but we're also at the time where we have to recognize from a functional medicine standpoint the unintended and adverse consequences of antibiotic use, both inappropriate and appropriate antibiotic use. Because as we've mentioned in previous episodes, antibiotics are amazing at killing bugs, bacteria in particular, right? But we have our entire ecosystem of microbes in our gut microbiome. Guess what? We have microbiomes on our skin, on our breast milk glands, on our eyeballs, right? Our brains. I mean, we're discovering we have these different ecosystems, microbial ecosystems in and on us. And they are there to provide benefit for us. Now, when we take an antibiotic, presumably it's for a pathogenic, bad bacteria. Let's say maybe you have strep pneumo, a pneumonia, right? And you need the antibiotics. Well, antibiotics don't just target the bad bacteria. They can, kill all the good bacteria along with the bad bacteria. And unfortunately, some antibiotics have even been found to preserve the bad bacteria at the expense of the good bacteria, which is one of the reasons why we see C. diff, Clostridia difficile infections, right? And C. diff is becoming an increasing problem. And so when we're killing off all the beneficial flora, if we don't understand how to really help the microbiome recover, that's when we can see some of the unintended short-term or long-term consequences that it can include problems with immune system functioning, allergic responses, autoimmunity, or brain problems, neurodevelopmental and neuropsychiatric concerns. And so we want to make sure that when we're using antibiotics, we understand these adverse effects and we know how to mop up some of the damage and recover and restore your microbiome. And then we also have to back up and take a public health perspective too, and recognize that antibiotics, one of the most important public health discoveries of the 20th century may no longer serve us in the way that we want them to. You know, we're at the point now where by 2050, which is just around the corner, many experts, including the World Health Organization, are concerned that antibiotic resistance is going to become a leading cause of death worldwide. This is because antibiotics are way overused and inappropriately used, right?
Yes.
And so a simple skin infection, a simple ear infection could become something where we have no antibiotics to treat. And that is not where we want to head back in time to a place, right? And when we look at children in particular, so for me as a pediatrician, of course, I'm really wanting to understand the implications for kids. Well, in some studies, up to 70% of antibiotics written for kids were inappropriately prescribed.
They're viral.
Yeah, 70%, because the vast majority of infections kids get are viral, where antibiotics aren't going to do a thing except kill off the beneficial bugs, right? Or maybe in some cases, an antibiotic that was way too broad, you know, stronger than needed to be was used. So we have to take all of this and really, you know, be good stewards. We have to practice good antibiotic stewardship for ourselves and our kids, and also for public health reasons. And it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that a lot of that starts in the primary care realm, because we do have to preserve the antibiotic use for more emergent acute situations. They can absolutely be life-saving.
Yeah.
And when they are implemented in a life-saving situation, that's really not what's causing the abundant resistance that's occurring. It is the more overprescribing in a primary care setting. So it really starts there. And the pushback I get a lot from other practitioners is, well, the patients push for it, the parents push for it, they just want to do something now, or like you mentioned on previous episodes, that there's just not time to really do anything else but write a quick script. And I have a hard time. One, I could never rationalize if a parent is pushing. If I don't believe that a prescription should be given, you're not going to force me to do that. That is my license on the piece of paper. You know what I mean? And I will give you other alternatives. But, and I don't, so that part I don't really understand with other practitioners, but I do think that it is a huge hole that needs to be just retaught, starting at the fundamentals with school. What else can we give the parent? What else, if they're wanting just comfort measures, what else is available that is evidence-based to help comfort the kid? You mentioned garlic mullein oil, or garlic oil in general for the ears. That's wonderful. And then you have parameters, you know, in terms of when we see peds in our office, we have parameters. If they're, you know, if it's red and bulging, but it's not pussy, you know, then I'm going with a garlic mullein oil for the next 48 hours. You're going to come back for me to recheck that ear. Yeah. And we're going to keep kind of a close watch, but there's no reason to jump right to the antibiotic, like you said, 70% of the time. So it really starts with practitioners having the proper training to understand, okay, what else can be done? I understand that the parents are wanting some feedback or some form of, you know, something that can be done then. So what else can I offer in this moment besides just pushing the antibiotic?
Well, and a couple of things. So what, it's a really important point that you made, that a lot of practitioners say, well, but the parents want it. Right. Now, here's the thing, because I mean, I have a whole chapter on what every parent and practitioner needs to understand about antibiotics. And there's a list of 6 questions there to ask your doctor before you start antibiotics. Now, the first question is the most important, and it's a really simple question. I mean, that first question is, hey, doc, is this antibiotic really necessary? Now, I mean, sounds like a simple question. Why would the doctor be prescribing it if it's not necessary? However, one study found that practitioners were twice as likely to prescribe an antibiotic, even if they thought it wasn't necessary, if they thought the patients wanted it. So simply by asking that question, you're not saying, I don't want any antibiotics. You're saying, I want to use them if they're necessary, but I want to know, is this necessary? So you're opening the door for that practitioner to know, oh, okay, this is not one of those parents who's come in with the sole purpose of walking out with a prescription in hand, right? Because there are parents like that, but parents listening to this podcast are not like that, right? So listen, you know, so ask the question. The second point of, you know, what are the alternatives? Because as a parent, I mean, sure, you don't want to use unnecessary antibiotics, but your kid's still in pain. And also, by the way, too, we know ibuprofen, unfortunately, can also cause microbiome disruption almost as much as antibiotics. So what do we do, right? And that's where the doc or the practitioner in front of you, they may not know, right? And hopefully they'll learn more tools. But that's where, finding other practitioners in your community that you can collaborate with, right? As long as you know, okay, these antibiotics weren't necessary, but let's wait and see. I don't want them to become necessary in a few days. What else can we do? It might be finding a naturopathic doctor or an integrative pediatrician or practitioner. And that's where, for me, it was really important for me to, my book actually could have been 2 separate books. I mean, part 4 is literally like the top 25 top acute conditions or conditions that kids face. And all the tools that I use, from homeopathy to herbs to supplements to, diet and lifestyle, everything that if you're a patient and you page me at 2 a.m, my kid's throwing up or my kid has a fever, they have an earache, which of course it always happens in the middle of the night, right? What I would tell you to do, right? What I would recommend, and also when those medications might be needed, when you should really think about calling your doctor or even going to the emergency room. Because as a parent, you don't want to be left thinking, okay, I'm doing all these quote natural things, but okay, then what? Like, how do I know for sure? Right? You just want to make sure that you're doing the best for parents, but there's so many things we can do. I mean, you mentioned the garlic lily, but there's so many things that we can do, whether it's a sore throat or flu or eczema or sleep problems.
Yes, absolutely. I don't want you to give away all your questions because I want our listeners to go get your book.
I'm gonna win this book. Y'all just don't play, because I want this signed copy on my shelf. I only have books on my shelf that are signed by the author. I have so many books. So Mark's like, you need to cut it out. And I said, if I get the author to sign it, can I put it on my shelf?
I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that.
That is so funny.
So I want a signed copy of your book.
So, okay.
For sure.
And I don't want you said there's 6 questions. Again, I don't want you to give them all away, but you said the first one is this antibiotic truly needed? Can you give our listeners 2 more?
All right. So, I mean, that's one, right? The second one, you can ask, hey, are you prescribing this because it's really, it's bacterial, or is it kind of just in case, right? And then if it is bacterial, like, how do you know? And that's where we're requesting a throat swab, right? If it's strep, there's no way, 0 way that any clinician can look at your throat, no matter how red or pussy or inflamed the tonsils are, and say that's bacterial, strep, or it's viral. Some of the worst sore throats I've seen were viral, right? And so can you confirm, right? If your kiddo is having some discomfort, and while they're peeing, can we do a culture first, right? And so how can we confirm? I think confirming is also, from a public health standpoint, really important, so that, again, we're not inappropriately using these medications, right? And the third one you already alluded to, well, what are some alternatives? Do you have any alternatives that I can use? I mean, that is really important because, again, we don't want to feel like we're left high and dry with, okay, we're going to wait on the antibiotics, but here you go. Because, that also, most of our tools in conventional pediatrics when kids are sick is, quote, supportive care. What does supportive care really mean? It means, all right, keep them hydrated, not with the Gatorade, please, right? But keep them hydrated, right? If they have a fever, give them Tylenol or Motrin around the clock, or, if they are, not, if they are, well, so that's the main thing. Give them Tylenol or Motrin. If they're stuffy nose, give them the Benadryl or the Sudafed, which, by the way, hasn't been shown to work, right? I mean, that's supportive care, right? And, if they're not better, right? If they're not better in 2 to 3 days, or they still have a stuffy nose in 7 to 10 days, come back, because then maybe it's bacterial and we'll give you the antibiotics then, right? So those things, I mean, the measures I've mentioned, they're all kind of suppressing the symptoms, not helping your child heal.
Yeah.
And that's where, if we learn how to use homeopathy or herbs or supplements, they can help your kids, their immune systems, do what they're trying to do a little more effectively without suppressing the symptoms.
Yes, I don't know what episode we're on. In one of our episodes this month, we actually talk about suppressing fever, especially in children. And I think it's not common knowledge that the fever is there to do its job, to help our blood cells, just our innate immune system go attack that pathogen. So it's actually been proven in literature that suppressing the fever causes prolonged symptoms. And so even parents understanding, I think a lot of parents think that when they're suppressing that fever and that, that number is going down, that they're helping their child get over the illness faster, where they think they're actually doing something about the illness itself. And so even just the basic understanding of, no, you might be comforting your child by decreasing the temperature, but in terms of the infection, it is not doing anything to eradicate the infection. You mentioned urine, and I think just a quick point about this is even there with antibiotic overuse, common practice is, okay, let's say we go to urgent care, we think that there might be a UTI, we give the patient a prescription for an antibiotic, we send it for a culture comes back 3 days later, patient's been on the antibiotic 3 days, oh, it's actually negative, so stop that antibiotic. Are there other tools that can be utilized in that moment to help the patient with that discomfort? In my practice, we would use either something like D-mannose or Buco by Marco Pharma. There's awesome herbal extracts there. Even more spore-based probiotics, depending on what's going on, either orally or vaginally, depending on the woman's circumstance. But there are definitely other modalities that can be utilized in the meantime while you are getting that information back from the culture and then making the decision if an antibiotic is warranted or not. But let's say, for more deep dive question here, there are absolutely times that antibiotics are needed and justified and utilized appropriately. What are your top tips in that moment for helping to prevent that antibiotic from disrupting the gut microbiome, or afterwards to protect their GI tract once the antibiotic is finished?
Yeah. So this is, there are going to be times where antibiotics are necessary. And I said in a previous episode, I mean, both my babies had antibiotics when they were under 5 weeks of age. And they've had antibiotics for, rarely. I think, my son had a strep infection later on in life. And so, I gave him antibiotics for that. But we have to understand how to recover the microbiome. Now, here's the thing that's really interesting. If you did nothing after a round of antibiotics, your microbiome would eventually start to recover. However, it wants to recover to the state that it was in before you took antibiotics. So the key, ideally, would be to create that foundation of microbiome resilience even before your kiddo ever needs antibiotics. That's the key, right? Because if you have the microbiome resilience, if you're doing the 5 things for microbiome magic and you're nourishing your microbiome and you're living and eating in a way that supports a healthy microbiome, yeah, that's resilience, right? Your microbiome will take that hit for sure after the antibiotic, and then it wants to bounce back. Now, what if maybe your child's microbiome wasn't at the healthiest state, right? You can still recover your child's microbiome, but it goes beyond just taking probiotics. A lot of people think, well, I'm just going to throw in, 100 trillion colonies in there and blast the microbiome with the good stuff. Well, that doesn't necessarily work either. So here's the thing, I call it the gut reset program. And I have, some keys. This is what I would do with you in my practice, whether it's after a recent or past round of antibiotics, because sometimes you're thinking back now like, oh, my kiddo had antibiotics when they were 3 and now they're dealing with some immune stuff. There's probably some disruption there. Or if they're, maybe, had a recent round of antibiotics for, I don't know, let's say a bronchitis. So the gut reset, the RE in the reset, is returning to the 5 things for microbiome magic. Now we have to go back to that. The key really, is if we are throwing in all those trillions of colonies of probiotics, well, if you don't have an ecosystem where those probiotics want to actually call their home, they're not going to stick around. They're just going to come right out in the poop, right? So we have to think about your child's gut microbiome and your gut microbiome as an ecosystem. And we want a friendly ecosystem, a friendly neighborhood that whenever the good guys are going through, it calls to them and says, hey, move on in. I want you to stay here. Make this your home. And just by doing that, getting in some good bugs in there, those good bugs also then call in their friendly neighbors to say, hey, let's create a good environment for our home, right? So that's why we
Yep.
need that. We've got to have that diet and lifestyle piece that we're working on. Now, then we're giving, a lot of antibiotics can trigger leaky gut. So the S is a seal and heal the leaky gut. E is eliminate gut dysbiosis. Possibly there's gut dysbiosis. And the T is transforming the gut microbiome. Now, the seal and heal the leaky gut, a lot of people are familiar with the 5 R's, but that's really, where we're giving the nutrients to protect your leaky gut. And those most important nutrients are going to be zinc, glutamine, your omega-3s, drink your bone broth, get in your zinc that way, get in the healing glutamine that way, and, take some fish oil. The transforming the microbiome, that's probably the most important piece. And we've spoken about the vagus nerve before, right? But when we want to really have this restoration take hold, we need to then engage our vagus nerve to really kind of hammer in that healthy ecosystem that then sticks around. So, I mean, there's a whole timeline with this, but again, if you are during this time, you are going to be taking probiotics, right? Now, there are probiotic strains that have been shown to help the microbiome recover after antibiotics. Those are the strains that I want in there, right? Like Saccharomyces boulardii can be helpful. Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG can be helpful. There's a Lactobacillus acidophilus NCFM. I mean, there's a few strains that are in there that you can find in some multi-strain probiotic supplements, right?
Yeah.
So choosing those, getting in extra prebiotics. I mean, you're going to get the fiber and the phytonutrients in from your diet, hopefully. Fermented foods have been found to recover microbiome diversity and function even better than fiber. So get in your kimchi and your sauerkraut, but you may need to take an extra prebiotic supplement. Now, how long do I do this for after an acute round of antibiotics? Probably a couple of months, 1 to 2 months, right? Maybe 3 months, right? Now, if there's a chronic condition going on and you're doing this gut reset for your child's eczema, it may be a longer journey, right? And that's where you can start with that. But then ideally, I would incorporate some testing, like some microbiome testing and nutrient deficiencies testing to optimize all of the other healing that needs to take place.
Yeah, absolutely. A good way to think about it is, and how I explain it to my patients, because I think a lot of people don't fully understand even what a microbiome is or the different components of it. We tend to just think, okay, an antibiotic comes in and it gets rid of all the all the good bacteria. But there are things that are non-pathogenic, but are opportunistic that do belong in our microbiome, whether it's in our gut, on our skin, in our mouth, wherever it is, that are opportunistic bacteria or opportunistic little parasites or fungal species that belong there. But what I say is they're like the weeds of our GI tract. And then we have the flowers of our GI tract, and it's like this beautiful garden. And when we take an antibiotic, yes, it can cut down the flowers and kind of shrink the flowers. But not only that, it can allow the weeds to overgrow. And that's where we get the increased risk of autoimmunity or the increased risk of dysbiosis. And so understanding kind of the concept of, okay, that antibiotic can come in just like so many other things can and disrupt our microbiome. It means it kind of can push down the good and take the bad guys and allow them to overgrow. And something that I see, especially with my little eczema kiddos, is Candida, of course, is coming in. That's why I like more spore-based probiotics. Like Saccharomyces boulardii as well, alongside antibiotic use, because it does also help kind of that Candida overgrowth and helping those bad guys, those opportunistic organisms, stay at bay as well.
Yeah. It's a comprehensive approach. And again, it's got to be, we can, again, throw in the probiotics in there, but like you said, I mean, it's a whole garden, right? Our microbiome is not just the microorganisms in it. That technically are our microbiota, right? Those are the actual organisms. The microbiome is the whole ecosystem that is comprised of your microbiota and all the genes that they bring with them and the little environment they've created for themselves. So it's a whole ecosystem. It's just like, I mean, I tell kids it's, if they're thinking about, Jack's Magic Beanstalks, it's not like Jack's Magic Beans. You can't just throw, beans, probiotics in there and expect things to grow. Just like, for people who grow gardens in their yard and grow a tomato plant, you can't just throw seeds on the ground. without the proper water and the sunlight and the nutrients in the soil, and expect that you're going to have beautiful, juicy red, tomatoes growing.
Yes, absolutely. Well, discoverers, stay tuned. We have one more episode with Dr. Song where we're going to dive into just this holiday season and how we can be proactive with helping the kiddos stay sick around somewhat of the chaos of the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Stay healthy, you mean?
Yes.
You did.
We're in the eyes.
We're going to clear it all up in the next episode.
Yeah,
So
clearly. Yeah, you have to know, listen.
Yeah. So also make sure that you are following us on Instagram at the Discovery Doc for a special opportunity to win Dr. Song's book. If I don't win it first, you're competing against me. And also, if you would like an additional entry into that contest, make sure that you are on my insider list so I can send you a special invitation for an extra entry. And do you have a wellness dilemma for the Discovery Doc, our guest to solve? Share your query on our podcast page at thediscoverydoc.com. As we wrap up this Toxin Tamer feature, we'll discuss practical strategies for ditching harmful toxins and switching to safer alternatives for a healthier lifestyle. All right. Benzoyl peroxide. Got it. Don't need it. Don't want it. What do I need to switch it for that is effective for acne, but also for removing the way that I use it for managing body bacteria?
Yes. So not everyone's going to like my first answer. My first answer is if you're struggling with acne, then I truly don't love any topical cream as a solution.
Right.
I like it as part of a solution to help the skin and to help clear the skin acutely. But if we're needing to use a topical cream every single day to keep acne at bay, and then we remove that cream and your acne is coming back, now I have a problem with that pattern.
Yeah.
So my first and foremost answer would be with your local functional medicine provider, naturopath, whoever, to really dive into the root cause of acne. A lot of times it goes back to a couple of things, the main one being our gut health.
Eating too much chocolate, fried foods, and soda.
Food, yes, diet is huge.
Okay.
Diet's absolutely huge. But then our gut microbiome, what bacterial overgrowth is occurring in the gut microbiome? Is there a lot of patients who have history of acne, especially cystic acne, have candida overgrowth or other bacterial overgrowth, opportunistic overgrowth within the GI tract? So what's going on there? Our skin is, as our largest organ, is a reflection of what's happening internally. So finding that root cause, other times it is often related to hormones and cyclical in nature because of that. So finding out how to modulate your hormones naturally, which also has a lot to do with gut health, because, hey, our hormones are processed in our GI tract, but there's so many places that they're made and digested and absorbed that sometimes it does take an absolute deeper look because this is my psycho brain, when hormones are off, then that also is an answer to me, right? So I'm like, well, why are hormones off?
Mm-hmm.
And so we keep digging. So that's my first answer is, if you're stuck in a pattern where acne is a cyclical problem for you, then alongside something topical, try to reach out to a functional medicine provider who can help you understand why the acne is popping up in the first place. Now back to your question. Topical options.
Yes.
So I really, really, really like Ozone. Okay. Ozone oil is a great natural antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral. So that is something that you can use anywhere on the body to prevent infection from occurring. So it's really good for my kiddos who have like weeping eczema, where, yes, it's just raw and icky, and to prevent it from getting infected, that's a really, really great option. But ozone oil in itself is extremely healing and provides more oxidation or oxygen, I should say, to those areas that are injured. And it just allows your skin to heal more readily while bringing those antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral properties to your skin as well.
So they take all of these ingredients and process them through ozone, with ozone?
So usually it's just one. So usually there's a carrier oil like jojoba oil, olive oil, coconut oil, and it's infused with ozone.
Okay.
Yes. So there's
So I'm asking how they infuse it. That's my question.
You think I'm the scientist behind creating these ozone oil? I don't know.
I don't know. I thought you knew something.
I'm
No,
sitting in my
okay.
backyard making ozone
Yeah.
oil myself.
No. So ozone happens when it rains, and it's that rain smell, right? That's what happens. Is ozone is naturally created in our environment, and it's cleansing and clearing, and it helps kind of readjust and kind of make things better. So the other thing that ozone can be used for, like it's a machine, and you can put it in a house to remediate it if there's mold or anything, like, and it is ozone itself in high doses is very toxic.
Yes.
So they seal off the house and they do it. So any biologicals will perish because that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to kind of clean and reset. So I wonder if I don't know if they.
Well, it's similar to like a TENS pass. If you're drawing someone's blood, it's infusing. It's literally just infusing it, because when we do a TENS pass with blood, it's passing through a machine, adding those extra oxygen molecules into the bloodstream, which is in the tube, and then infusing it back into the patient.
Okay.
So I would just assume that when you're making a cream, it's the same thing, where they're just taking that carrier oil and infusing it with the extra oxygen molecules.
Okay, that suffices. That answers my question.
I feel like that's what it would happen.
Yeah. If you know about ozone oil and you know how it's produced, made, let us know, because I'm curious. I want to know, and I want to learn from you.
Apparently, Google can't tell her.
No, I want to know from you. I want to know.
Okay. So the other one that I really like is Manuka honey. Is a really awesome natural antimicrobial as well. So it's not just when we're talking about acne, we're talking about reducing inflammation, we're reducing redness, right? But also fighting off the bacteria that topically can be enhancing the acne as well. So BioHoney has a natural acne cream that is made with Manuka honey. It really helps to repair and rehydrate and calm the skin, because it also has additional ingredients. So again, usually with ozone, I only find 1 or 2 carrier oils with it, because the point of using it is for the ozone, for the actual those extra oxygen molecules. But with something like the BioHoney Natural Acne Cream, it has apricot oil, jojoba, calendula, chamomile, vitamin E. So all that together really helps to fight inflammation and enhance healing.
Awesome. And jojoba is the closest size to our lipid barrier.
Yes.
So your body really likes it. I was severely oily, like oil slick all the time. And when I started using jojoba, like
it's like a sponge.
Yeah. And then it balances out your skin, and then you're not oily.
Yes.
And that totally is opposite of what we were taught in the 90s of like scrub your face with apricot and create all these holes and put apple cider vinegar on your face and dry it out and have more issues.
Jojoba, I use it my entire pregnancy all over. I love it for that reason. Much better than, I mean, I like coconut oil, but coconut oil, so it doesn't absorb.
Yeah.
It can clog your pores more easily than jojoba.
Non-comedogenic.
Wow, big word. Guys, look at her. She pulled out a big word. There are also some other ones that I just want to give options for. So Aravel Acne Patch is a spot treatment that's made with tea tree, calendula, and it's a good option. Alba Botanica is a company that I like, actually, kind of in general. And they have an acne dote pimple patch that's good. This one is cool because it has witch hazel in it. I love witch hazel. I think it's wonderful in terms of healing the skin. We use it in for postpartum women a lot to help if there are tears, vaginal tears or anything like that. So that is a good option as well. Rael, RAEL, so the same company who makes awesome pads, feminine products. They have an acne healing patch. They have a couple, actually, microneedle acne healing patch, Miracle Clear spot gel. All of these have really good, clean ingredients. There's the Mighty Patch, Pimple Patch, Dime Pimple Patches, Peace Out Acne Patches. How do you think you say that? Andalo Naturals?
Yeah. Or Andalou.
Andalou. Andalou.
Hey, if you're with Andalou, let us know how to say your name.
Yeah. Naturals. But I did a lot of research, guys, to get these. It doesn't mean I know how to pronounce them, okay? Andalou Naturals Blemish Vanishing Gel, which has argan stem cells. That's really, really cool. So plant-based stem cells, willow bark. It does have salicylic acid and other extracts that help to calm inflammation and combat blemishes and help to speed up the recovery of your skin. I think the argan stem cells in that one is super fascinating. Last two, Cocoa Kind Invisible Spot Treatment. I like this one because it has turmeric. Broccoli seed is an amazing ingredient, especially for helping calm inflammatory responses. Ginger extract and tea tree. So a lot of these have combinations of antifungal, antimicrobial, antibacterial to help what we've talked about previously. And then Indie Lee Banish Stick is also one. So some patches, some sticks, some creams in there. I would say my go-to would really be an ozone oil or a Manuka. But I think out of this list, the one that kind of the two I would say that I would go with would be the Alba Botanical or that Andalou.
Yeah. And we've talked about some essential oils. Do not put them on straight. Always put them with carrier oil.
Yeah.
Tea tree sounds really great until you put it somewhere close to your eyes or close to somewhere sensitive and it will light you on fire. Do not use it. Do not use it neat. Do not use it straight. So I have another question before we move on, because can you
let me
tell me
for tea tree, just to kind of finish that up, what I like to do is I just take a little coconut oil and put like 1 or 2 drops of the tea tree, mix it together in my fingers, and then apply it wherever. Like it can be that simple. You don't have to make this whole like oil yourself. It can just be that simple.
Yeah, but just don't put it on straight because it'll light you up. I know from personal experience. Don't do it. All right, so I'm gonna have her say
I skipped words because I didn't want to say them.
No, I know. I just want you to say. You already said this one. I want you to say that word again.
Turmeric.
Say it.
No, turmeric.
Spell it.
There's another R in there.
Yeah, it's turmeric.
No, I say turmeric.
Okay, so you let us know. We're just getting y'all all involved. Is it
okay? How do you see the other version of it then? The C word one. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't want to say it. Like liposomal. I use it all the time. What's derived from turmeric? See, turmeric. That's how you say that.
curcumin?
Yes. Okay. You said
Curcumin.
no. You said it. Different.
Curcumin.
Well, how do you say it? Pick one.
I don't know. You tell us. Is it turmeric, curcumin, or curcumin?
I say curcumin. Liposomal curcumin.
Okay. I'm just asking. See, words fascinate me.
There's too many R's in turmeric. I'm not pronouncing all of them.
Turmeric.
Wow, you really say that like
turmeric. Yeah, because that's how it's spelled. Turmeric.
Not seen all those reels of the English language that's like, you would think it's pronounced this way, but it's actually pronounced this way. Oh, there's the funniest guy. He's like a librarian and he does all these words of like, okay, pronounce this word, and it's read. And then he's like, okay, so if the EAD says this sound here, then when you pronounce a different word, I don't know. I can't even think of an example.
Yeah, it's like read or read, lead or lead.
Yes, exactly. And he's like, no, it's actually red. Yeah. It's actually lead, not lead.
Yeah, that has an extra R in it.
But we're ignoring the R.
Okay. All right. You let us know in the comments below how you say it. Do you pronounce the R or not?
Yes. Another good one I just thought of that could be, I would use it more as a carrier liquid, would be silver, colloidal silver. Yeah. So that on its own is a great natural antiviral, antimicrobial, antifungal, but on its own, topically, it might not be enough depending on the nature of acne. So, but it would be great to mix with any one of these options.
Yeah. And
just even spray. They come in little spray bottles. You can just spray it on your face.
There's also a gel. So if you're out of pimple patches, you can put a little spot of gel on and let it dry.
Yep.
Stay ahead of the wellness game. Get Dr. CeCe's top picks and swaps for the season straight to your inbox. Sign up for a mailing list at thediscoverydoc.com. Join us in our quest to bust medical myths. In this segment, we'll be diving deep into the world of health-related misinformation, uncovering the truth and empowering you with accurate knowledge. All right. This is like an old wives' tale.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it because I know how I feel about it because I just let it burn. I'm just going to let it burn.
Gotta let it burn.
Okay, tell us what this myth is.
All right. Fever should be suppressed. Dun, dun, dun. No. So not always. I should say not always. There are it is, again, standard of care for us to actively treat fevers. And there are many public health organizations that have advised that treating fevers with medicines like acetaminophen and ibuprofen are the way to go. And even though this is common practice, lowering our body temperature has not shown to improve, one, survival in patients, but two, infections. It has not shown to help that eradicate that infection. So it's really, truly just for comfort. So that is where my stipulation kind of is that, let's say you have a child who has history of febrile seizures, or I have some like Pandas kids who flare in their behaviors when they are sick with fevers. Girlfriend, give your kid, so I would prefer ibuprofen over acetaminophen, depending on the age, but give, the kid some ibuprofen. That is okay if it is absolutely necessary behaviorally, or if, let's say, we're talking about an infant and it's spiking over 105, that it can be scary for parents. So absolutely, in those times, let that drug come in, that ibuprofen or acetaminophen, whatever you prefer, come in and do its job for the source of comfort. What I think parents need to be aware of is that it is strictly for comfort. When you see that temperature come down after administering the drug, that is not the virus or the bacteria or whatever infection is going on resolving. That's not what's happening. That is just the drug working on those receptors to reduce the body temperature, which unfortunately has been proven in literature to actually prolong symptoms and prolong illness. So we have to, I think, educate families more so on the fact that fevers work by causing damage to the pathogens.
Right.
That's what they are doing. Symptoms are a result of an interaction within your immune system doing its job, fighting something off, which unfortunately for my chronically ill patients stinks because it's daily. But in acute situations, when we have those fevers along with other sickness symptoms, it's evolved as a defense mechanism against that infection. So they damage the pathogens and the infected cells, and it allows the healthy cells to kind of do their job more efficiently. So again, when you reduce that response and reduce the fever, you're reducing the ability for that pathogen to be killed. So
that being said, as a scared mama, what do you do?
So there's two answers to this. Number one is if you have a healthy kid or you are healthy overall and you have no pertinent past medical history that would require you to reduce your fever quickly, then let that thing ride.
Okay.
Let the fever do its job. It is meant to protect you. It is designed to get rid of that pathogen. Don't suppress it. You will actually prolong symptoms. So again, that's for general healthy kids or adults. For my own kids, dude, if it is not above 104, 105, I'm not giving anything. But I'm doing other measures in daily life that's not giving a drug, right? I'm using kind of warm compresses. I'm having them take like a tepid Epsom salt bath. I'm giving them homeopathy. I'm doing some other things that are addressing more of the root cause versus, and kind of immune boosting. I'm giving them all the immune boosting supplements, but not in terms of trying to inhibit the fever from doing its job. So if you're overall healthy in general, let it ride, let it do its thing. If you're immunocompromised, or again, there's history of febrile seizures, or it's kind of in that scary zone depending on the age of 105, then yes. Or just for comfort, if you have a baby who's fussy and, has a fever, and that will help baby go to sleep at night, then fine. But just understand that it is for comfort measures and not for actually eradicating the infection or what's going on.
So for being someone that's chronically ill and fighting all the things that I'm fighting all the time, which is exhausting, is that what happens when I do a pseudo-induced fever by getting in my sauna a couple of times a week? Does that help? Now, it's not the same as an internal fever because you're fighting something that your body's like, hey, dude, like, this is not cool. We're going to get rid of this and burn it off. But for us that are chronically ill, because I notice that the more that I use it and get my body temperature fluctuating, I don't do ice because I have Raynaud's, and so that hurts.
But getting my temperature to get as cold as I can without getting an ice, and then to be warm enough that gets my body to cycle through that and run that blood through things. And the same thing with like red light, just getting that exposed to things.
That's a great question. Slight different, I would say, because a fever is an innate immune response that's occurring at a cellular white blood cell level. Versus infrared sauna, we're getting in and those wavelengths are penetrating our cells and still heating you up from the inside out, but it's not necessarily provoking the immune response that's occurring with a fever.
Okay.
In terms of like turning on your white blood cells, your macrophages, the things that are going, your lymphocytes, your neutrophils, the things that are going after the organisms and attacking them. It's not really activating that, but it is active. It is that wavelength. It's penetrating your cell enough to heat you up from the inside out, where then it's working more on like the inflammatory responses.
Okay.
It is absolutely, there's been a lot of literature that helps or that tells us that infrared sauna actually improves immune function. I just think it's a little bit different than activating an innate immune response versus that wavelength coming in and helping us to decrease inflammatory responses, which then makes way for something like a natural killer cell to do its job more readily.
Okay.
It's like
just asking.
Yeah, that's a great question though.
Because chronically ill, sometimes I do run a low-grade fever. It's nothing. I mean, it's like 101. Like I don't bat an eye. Doesn't happen all the time, but I know my body's going through the process, so I just go take a nap.
And that normally what I see there is that cyclical infectious agents. You know, those are things coming out to play in the bloodstream, and now I have a low-grade cyclical fever, and then it kind of goes back into hiding, and now that fever goes away. So more with my cyclical low-grade fevers with chronically ill patients, it's usually an unresolved infectious agent that's kind of coming in and out of the bloodstream. And maybe that is where the infrared sauna for you comes into play, with activating an immune response towards it, because you're actually helping the inflammatory, like you're so inflamed that infrared sauna is helping your inflammatory responses decrease, which allows your immune system to do its job more effectively.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Good to know. All right. Well, until next time,
let's discover together.
Get the royal treatment. Subscribe to our insider list at thediscoverydoc.com and receive exclusive offers and bonuses directly to your inbox. Enjoy the luxury of our deepest savings and become part of our exclusive community. This access to this list closes December 31st, so don't miss.
We hope you found today's episode with Dr. Elisa Song informative and empowering. With her expertise, you're now equipped with knowledge about essential natural remedies that can support your health naturally. Remember, nature provides us with powerful tools to heal and thrive. We navigate the vast ocean of health information. Let's pause for a brief disclaimer. The content of this podcast is intended for general, informational, and entertainment purposes only. While we're thrilled to be your Discovery Doc crewmates, we're not here to replace your doctor or healthcare provider. Think of us as your fellow sailors on the journey to better health, sharing our knowledge and experiences. Remember, always consult a qualified medical professional before taking any action based on the content of this podcast. Like a sailing adventure, this disclaimer may change occasionally, so be sure to check back for updates. Stay healthy, stay curious, and keep sailing with the Discovery Doc.